All right, so welcome to Living Word Family Church. This is These Final Days Ministries. I'm Pastor Ryan Speakman, serving under my favorite pastor in the whole world, for real, Pastor Maureen Collins. And we are going to have fun tonight, right?
Yes.
Cheryl, why are we going to have fun tonight?
Because we have fun every Wednesday night.
Yes, gold star for Cheryl. And Cheryl did remind me what I forgot to do 2 weeks ago, pass the offering bucket. So I told you guys before, you've all been very generous with the offerings. I greatly appreciate that. I get a little bit of offerings online, not much. I sell a lot of books, but if I sell $1,000 worth of books, that means I spent $1,200 marketing them to get guests. But this goes to marketing the ministry, and I'm getting ready to publish part 3 of my book series, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you. So let me pass that around. And if anyone's watching online and just can't wait to send $1 million to the ministry, I'll take it. You can go to my Facebook page, thesefinaldays.org, and you'll see a donate button. And it's actually been used on occasion. Pretty exciting. So, we haven't done any news items for a while, but there is...
Whoa, wait a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't there a recount in Israel that
I don't know what you're talking about.
got in instead of Benjamin Netanyahu?
What are you referring to?
She don't know. Why don't you move over a little, Ryan? I want to know who won.
What do you mean, Kim? Okay, everybody look at the screen. Kim! Yes, that's what we're going to talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. Well, Mark made the point last time, hey, we don't talk about news anymore. And if there's something really important, well, this is Israeli election. It's not, well, it could turn out to be a lot more consequential than I was even thinking. So here are the results so far, which are not by any means final. Okay, but basically, what happened is we're all probably confused. Listen, there's a lot of things that I will claim to have a deep understanding of. Israeli politics is not one of them. Their political system, I mean, I've been to the Knesset, I've studied this stuff, it's still very, very confusing to me, but basically so we have the Knesset, which is the Israeli equivalent of the Congress, all right, and people vote for people to be members of the Knesset from various parties in Israel, and there's a whole bunch of parties in Israel. It's an interesting system from an American standpoint, because here, I don't think our founders intended our nation to be reduced to 2 parties, a 2-party system. I don't think that was their intent. Well, the way that Israel set up, I guess they saw what was happening here. This is the 1940s when they put it together, and they said, okay, we're going to do this better. So they definitely have a multi-party system, but it makes things a little bit complex. Elijah, go ahead quickly, please.
No, I have an interest in voting systems. I don't expect you to know all the technical terms, but have you heard mixed member proportional or MMP thrown around talking about it at all?
I have, because you and I are geeks and we talk about it.
No, I mean about like in the Wikipedia pages and stuff for this. Have you seen anything about that?
Yeah. I'm not sure what the actual technical term is for their system.
That almost sounds like MMP, so I was just curious.
Yeah. And I actually have a bachelor's degree in political science, but he's smarter than me, so that's why he can.
I just watch a lot of interesting YouTube videos, okay?
Yeah, YouTube. So a couple months ago there was an Israeli election, and we all thought, okay, this is cool. Benjamin Netanyahu was in again. It's funny because for American Christians, I've noticed, I mean, it's just clear, very, very obvious that American Christians love Netanyahu, and our perception of him is that he's very conservative, very right-wing. He's kind of a hawk when it comes to protecting Israel. In a way, he is. He's friends with President Trump. There's a whole lot for us to like about Netanyahu. What's interesting is my friends in Israel, when you're in Israel talking to people, the most conservative, hawkish people, the ones who are like most serious about protecting Israel, don't like Netanyahu that much anymore because over the last few years, he's kind of softened his stance. You guys might notice, we talk about it in here every now and then, that all the time Hamas, Islamic Jihad, they're lobbing rockets into Israel out of Gaza, and the towns along Israel are very upset with Netanyahu. That's probably a big reason why this happened this time around. Netanyahu's party actually probably at best is tied with the blue and white party, which means that there's a chance that Netanyahu could continue to be the prime minister. There's a very good chance that he won't. Okay, so how it works is and I might be messing this up a little bit. There are 120 seats in the Knesset, and so you need 61 seats to have a majority. And I think David Medine, we're going to, I think, watch a short video of his. I shouldn't say I think, we figured out how to do it here, but we're going to watch a little video that he sent me today. It's about 5 minutes long, where he's commenting on this. And right now, we're kind of in limbo. You know, the numbers aren't completely in yet. The soldiers are still voting. So you have to have 61 seats. I think David says 62 in his video, so he's probably right. But and that's what it means when you might hear, if you hear this on the news, they need to form a government. Okay, so Benjamin Netanyahu's party, or maybe Benny Gantz's party. Benny Gantz is the guy's name. Now, David Medine told me about a week ago, because I asked him, you know, what do you think about the upcoming election? He said anybody but Gantz. So they don't like Netanyahu. They really don't like Gantz. The pot's being stirred. Who knows how this is all going to turn out? But do you guys want to watch a short video from David? Because it's actually very telling, I think. So let's see, there he is. And again, he just sent this to me this morning, this afternoon. So here we go. Make sure the sound's good. We ready, Elijah? Zoomed in. Here we go.
This is David Medine, reporting from the Beit Agron Center. I work at the Center for Near East Policy Research and the Israel Resource News Agency. This is the 6th Israeli election that I've covered, and the most unusual of elections, to say the least, because many people jumped from one party to the other. There was a new party called Blue and White, which ran this year, and at the top of it were the 3 generals and one TV personality. So that makes things very interesting to see what's going to come out of this. Now, what we have here in the new election is, first of all, a lack of a conclusive result. The largest party is Likud at 32. The next one is Likud at 31, but that could change when the soldiers' votes are counted.
Oops. I think that's the church's Wi-Fi. Hold on. Assuming we're connected to the church's Wi-Fi. Oops. Have we checked that, Elijah?
So when the soldiers' votes are counted.
Come on. So when the soldiers' votes are counted. This isn't the main thing I wanted you guys to hear, though.
24 hours.
There we go.
But what's most important is that the people from the Israel military have basically moved into a very, very important position in ways they haven't been in a long time. And it's the section of the Israeli military that has been protecting the good name of the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, and continuing with the Oslo peace process, for better or worse. And very frankly, the superficiality of these people who have been elected is something that we'll have to deal with. In addition, another very important development which happened in these elections was the election of a very strong Arab list. Now, the Arab list, there's 13 members of the Knesset from 3 Arab political parties who got together in one list, led by a relatively young man, Ayman Uda, a lawyer who's an Arab. And the problem is not the fact that they're Arabs, but the fact that they have built associations with anti-Israel groups around the world and with the Palestine Liberation Organization. Now, this is going to pose a very important challenge to the Israel political system, because the Israel political system dictates that the opposition leader is always informed of security matters as they're being debated in the Knesset. Now, that means that Arabs who are connected with factors that are hostile to Israel, at war with Israel, critical of Israel, undermining Israel, will now have access to security information they never had before. Now, basically, they were quietly excluded from the Security Committee, what's called the Foreign Defense and Security Committee of the Knesset. Now they'll be part of it. So that's going to be a very major challenge. Now, at the same time, before the elections took place, our agency, the Israel Resource News Agency at the Center for Near East Policy Research, we asked different parties what they felt about the new curriculum that the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA have introduced of late. And the political party that put us off the most was blue and white, not wanting to deal with the issue. And that's been a problem actually since the spawning of the Oslo process. Certain political parties not wanting to deal with the incitement and the indoctrination of the new curriculum of the Palestinian Authority, which is getting their material from the Palestine Liberation Organization. It's not only in general terms something that people can't perceive. It's an incitement which is an indoctrination to war, and this war indoctrination curriculum, which we have on our site, IsraelBehindTheNews.com, is not something that these politicians who are newly elected have wanted to deal with. So that's going to affect things for quite a long time. The extent to which they ignore the terrorism connections of the Arabs who live in the Samaria and West Bank, and the extent to which they're getting financial support through left-wing and anti-Israel organizations around the world. So between Gantz's people, Gantz, the head of the Blue and White, and Ayman Uda's people from the Israel-Arab Coalition, this is a very new challenge to Israel. Who's going to be Prime Minister? In 24 hours we'll know. We are back to square one, and I suggest that you tune in. We'll try to, Thursday night, in Swedish time, Israel time, whatever, we'll try to do an update in terms of where things are at. You can be in touch with us through our website, IsraelBehindTheNews.com. All the features that are there, it's a website that's been running since 1997, and it's a website that tries to keep people informed of the inside story of what's happening in Israel that may not be reported in the mainstream media.
Wow.
Okay, everybody say thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
So like I say, he just sent that to me today. He actually sent me another video, and then I wrote to him saying, can I share this with the class? He said, here, show him this one instead. So, and he just recorded that. So like I say, right now we're still in limbo. We don't know the results. The most important thing I want you guys to catch here is what he said about the Arab coalition. So there are 11 Arabs, probably mostly Muslim, there's probably some Christians too. And he did make the point, he actually made it a little bit more directly, I think, on the other video that I saw this morning, that back in the early days of the nation of Israel, even then there were Arabs on the Knesset, but they were very pro-Israel. What's happened is that the Arab coalition in the Knesset has become radicalized, if I could use that word, against Israel. They're there to undermine the nation of Israel. I've seen it. I've seen interviews with them. So the exact same, listen guys, think about this spiritually, the exact same thing that we see happening here is happening there. The leadership is under attack. They're threatening to impeach Netanyahu for crimes that they're accusing him of if he does get back in. The pot's being stirred, just like it's being stirred here. And we're seeing a rise of radical Islamic influence in the government. May I be so bold as to make that point about the United States?
Sure.
We're starting to see that. We have our first two Muslim women in Congress, and they're very openly anti-Israel.
And America, and anti-America.
Yeah, now I'm not going to say that. I'm going to hold the microphone.
I hope the microphones hear it. They are anti-America.
Okay. Gina's not the official spokesman here, so yeah, she can say it. I'm not going to say it, but
Right.
yeah.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Amen.
Kim says it too. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is all. Well, I don't want to say this is all our opinion. I mean, some things we can say, oh, it's my opinion. Some things are just cold hard facts. And listen, and we say all this in the context of the spiritual war that we're in here, right? So us in this room, we are not against people. We're not against people who are in ignorance. Our eyes are so wide open that we can see past all the humans involved in this whole story here and in Israel and around the world, and see that this is all emanating from the spiritual realm. That's where the war really is. So just keep watching, keep praying, right? So, and we'll see what happens to this. Back to this. So if you need 61 seats in the Knesset, what that means is that if Blue and White wins or Likud wins, Likud is Netanyahu's party, whichever one of them wins, they have to make deals with members from all these other groups, including each other, until they have 61 in a coalition who are agreeing to work together. And then the president, whose name is Reuven Rivlin, he's been president since, I tried to commit to memory, 2014. Gold star for whoever can tell me how someone becomes president in Israel except Elijah, because I told him before class, and he probably knew already.
Do you mean prime minister or?
No, I mean president.
President.
The prime minister is whoever gets the most numbers here. That party gets to name the prime minister.
Okay.
So if it's blue and white, then Benny Gantz, who's the head of that party, is the new prime minister. But how is the president elected in Israel? It's so weird. It's so
Raffle
different
ticket.
here. Huh?
Raffle ticket.
Raffle ticket. How'd you know that? Yeah, you go into your local convenience store, buy a lottery ticket. Yes. Everybody give John a hand.
Really?
Are you serious?
We need some humor.
You're
No.
not serious, are you?
Give me a hand for being funny. I love John. Lighten up the room a bit. No, it's actually, check this out, it's actually these guys who elect the president. The Knesset elects the president, and the president serves for one term that's 7 years long. So it's a one term in office and it's 7 years. It's very different
And
system. Go
I
ahead.
heard
what I
also
said.
that if the elections turn into a tie, like they kind of are, and they don't form a government, that it's up to the president that is in standing at this time who has to, it's up to on his shoulders to form government.
Oh my gosh, I have to give her 5 gold stars because someone's been doing their homework. Yes, thank you, Jesus. Someone's been paying attention to Israeli politics. Yeah, good job. I just learned that like this morning, I think. So good job, Gene. Kurt, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it seems that Israel elects their president the same way we do, by an electoral type college, basically. Those are all elected officials.
Yeah.
You know, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of an interesting point. That's true, Kurt. I didn't think about that. It's not that
Except it's
dissimilar, I
a
guess.
winner-take-all system instead of
Yeah.
a.
Wow.
Instead
Very,
of
very astute
A
observation
lot
from
of
Kurt.
electoral votes
Yeah.
are winner take all.
This is the only reason I do this class, so I can hang out with my smartphones. Good job, guys. Okay, Sharon Jackson.
Well, I was going to say, I searched the channels all day long to hear news on it. The only one I found information and learned what you just said was on the Russian TV.
RT.
And
Yeah,
Watch our show.
and what they didn't say though is they said, is there any way
They're honest.
we can get a more progressive party in there to accept the universal?
Well, see, that's because
It's
Russia
the
wants.
same verbiage we hear.
Well,
over
that's
here.
because Russia is in competition with us, like they have been since, you know, the Suez Canal for control in the Middle East. They want a weak Israel. They know that for a weak Israel, let's do this. Russia wants a more progressive party. Do you hear the word progressive?
Yeah.
Because they want Israel to be weak. Because the Russians they are super smart people. They ain't dumb, and they know that if you want a country to be weak and wimpy, then put the progressives in charge. Russia needs and wants a weak Israel so that we lose our influence in the Middle East so they can reign supreme. It's just the chess game, that's all. So, but we see it happening here too. Listen, the end time story, you guys, we talked about it before, has to be a weak Israel and especially a weak United States.
Yeah.
Now, I won't claim for 1 second that the United States is weak right now under our current president. I don't know what's going to happen in 2020. Yeah, I do. He's going to get a second term. In Jesus' name. Yeah, but God's will be done. God's will be done. That's all I'm saying. But Trump's not going to be in the White House forever. And at some point, here's kind of what I see happening. Right or wrong, it's just kind of what I see, okay? So President Obama, you know, first black president, which was excellent. I mean, you know, we all thought that was incredibly cool. Yeah, this is great. Turned out to be extremely leftist, extremely progressive. The most liberal president we've ever. In fact, he was the most liberal senator at that point. And I'm using one measure to say that on his voting record, he was the most pro-abortion senator in history.
Yes.
So just by that one measure, I'll call him the most liberal, right? He went for 8 years, just encouraging that movement. The roaches are coming out from the darkness. I'm being mean tonight. Mike, come up here and smack me. I'm being too blunt. Sorry, I'm being too blunt. But I mean this spiritually, okay?
Not a wicked truth.
I mean this spiritually, that the forces of darkness have gotten much bolder and brave, to the point where they're furious now. I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about the forces of darkness, really, sincerely. Furious now because now we have Trump in the White House who's not doing anything they want, which is making them even bolder and more daring and more determined. So what's going to happen the next 4 or 8 years here in this country? you know, if America was kind of like this before, now it's like this.
Yeah.
And it's the end times coming. And anyways, go ahead, Kurt.
Actually, the word you were looking for was desperate. They're more
I would
desperate.
add that word
What
for
they're
sure.
doing is they're
Yeah.
saying they're losing their grip. When they had Obama in,
Yeah.
the most powerful nation in the world was being led by a socialist. The socialist movement all over the world has more than doubled down on everything to maintain their control.
Right.
And they're desperately trying to regain it here.
Yeah.
After Trump was elected here, then following the Brexit going on in England,
Yeah.
they realize they're losing their grip, so they're desperate.
And desperation makes people dangerous, and desperation makes the enemy, Satan, and his kingdom dangerous.
Those are the countries that said, go ahead and allow the Muslim immigrants to flood throughout Europe.
Right.
And to come here.
All right, so we got 5 minutes to actually talk about our topic. Sorry, everybody. We're kind of late getting started tonight. Sorry, kind of late getting in here. But let me get back into this. Oh, did you guys fill the offering bucket? I can pass it around again if there's still some room in it. I still see some like space in there. All right. So did I show you guys this image 2 weeks ago? I don't think. Oh, I did. Okay, because yeah, once again, I could not find a good picture that I liked of the Ark of the Covenant in context within the Holy of Holies. I mean, like all the time I'm looking on Google. Within 3 minutes, Elijah found one on, yeah, so if you want something online. So Elijah found this picture, give him a hand. Because I love this picture. It may or may not be accurate. Actually, it's not. And I'll tell you that at least one inaccuracy here is the floor. You can see that there's tile on the floor, and that's not where the Ark of the Covenant sat. Like we looked at 2 weeks ago, the image of the foundation stone, and you saw it's a very rough stone, and there's just a rectangular niche cut into it where the Ark of the Covenant would sit. So that's my one complaint about the picture here. Other than that, it's fantastic. Let me throw out some gold stars here. I'm going to give you guys some easy ones, Kate. What day of the year is this?
Atonement.
Oh my gosh, Cheryl. You answered so fast, I'm going to give you 3 gold stars for that. You know God's keeping track of these up in heaven, or it's probably just some low-level angel, but hey, he's keeping record. Okay. Yes, 3 gold stars for answering so quick. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Somebody else besides Cheryl, because I know she knows. Who's the guy?
High priest.
The high priest who said it first. Kim said, okay, Kim's claiming it, gold star. What's he doing?
What is he going to do?
Sprinkling the
Sprinkling the
blood.
holy.
Sprinkling blood.
That or incense.
Yes, he's okay. Yeah, it's actually it's not the incense offering because they didn't have like a golden censer. Actually, I just thought of something else. I think there's one other thing wrong with this
Because they
picture. Well, he did sprinkle blood. The rods are facing the right direction. He did sprinkle blood. First, he did the blood of the bull, which was for himself and his family, and then he came back later and did the blood of the goat, the sacrificial goat, not the scapegoat. Right? He got sent off to be pushed backwards into a chasm. Poor
Didn't
guy.
he do it with
What I think is wrong here, I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to go back and do my research. Well, first of all, what's that?
Didn't he do it with the?
He actually did it with his finger. No, he did it with his finger, so that part's right. What I think is wrong here,
He dipped his
hey,
finger in the blood.
if I'm right, I'm giving myself 10 gold
He's
stars.
wearing the wrong robe. He's supposed to be
Oh,
having.
Kim,
Yeah.
very good,
Yeah.
good job. Because I think she's right, because I think that the white robe he wore for the incense
Yes.
offering, which was before
Oh,
this, so that's
yes,
the first time he
yeah.
goes in. Wow, okay, you get the 10 gold
Old
stars.
Testament.
Man, I think you're right, go ahead, Kurt.
One other thing, there's no rope
He doesn't
tied
have a
around
rope
his
around
waist
his
to drag
waist.
him out.
That might just be legend.
That's
This-
legend, yeah.
But you know what, Kurt, though? I lean toward that. I think that that's probably true. He also had bells on the hem of his garment. You know they actually found those bells? They found one of the bells on the temple.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that, you'll not see that in scripture that talks about tying a rope around his ankle.
Yeah, so I've actually asked, like Rabbi Rosenbaum when he was here, and he said his favorite answer is like my favorite answer. I don't know. Or no, the way he said it is the way his
Unless it's in one of the lost books like Jasher or
the way his
anything
mom in
else.
New York
Yeah.
used to say it to him. Do I know? That's how she'd say it to him. So, but anyways, yeah. But Kurt, good observation. There may or may not have been a rope tied around his waist. Anyways, so now listen. We're still talking about the wilderness journey. The reason I'm pausing here is because we don't have a lot of opportunity here in our class to talk about this stuff, which is my favorite part of the whole topic. It really is. the temple and the third temple, being built, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just taking it because this is what prompts the Jews to flee from Jerusalem, right? To go on their wilderness journey to flee to Jordan. We're going to come back to that in a couple weeks whenever I get to it. But this is why I'm taking this chance here. Hey, while we're here, let's talk about some stuff we haven't talked about before. And this is kind of new stuff. So, Elijah, do you have your hand up, or?
No, I was just giving you 4. It's 4 till 7.
Yeah, I know. I'm watching. I'm watching the clock. You in a hurry to get out of here?
No, I'm just laughing about we're
Who
starting.
wants to stay a few minutes past 7? Elijah, you do? Okay. I was going to pick on you, but all right. Okay. No, I won't go too far over the clock here, but yeah, next week we'll try to start a little bit earlier because I really want to get through some of this. And we're getting into some very interesting stuff here. Listen, 2012, my first trip to Israel. I got there. I spent one night. The next day I got up, walked a little bit around West Jerusalem, the modern part, and then walked into the office of the Temple Institute, of all things, and I'd arranged this months in advance. I kept bugging the secretary, Samara is her name, she's still there, bugging her month after month, can I please meet Rabbi Richmond, the international director of the Temple Institute? I finally wore him down, he finally agreed to it, and gave me an interview. This was the first interview I ever did. He made me promise to not publish it in its entirety on YouTube. This was like 7 years ago. I'm going to show you guys a little clip from it. We don't have time tonight. You're going to have to come back next week for it. I'm sorry about that. But I'll show you just maybe 30 seconds of it just to give you a taste of it. And then you have to come back next week to see the whole clip. But so first interview I ever did in my whole life. Sat down and had a little handheld DSLR camera that had a video feature. So unprofessional, my gosh. But very, very gracious man. We talked for close to an hour and told me the most amazing things, and he gave me his personal insights about the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so we're talking about the temple being rebuilt, right? We sit down, I set the camera up, we both have a cup of coffee, of course, and the very first words out of his mouth, he starts to tell me about this guy. Let me show you this guy. Hold on. Oh, here, I meant to point out this again, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, how the floor is supposed to look of the Holy of Holies, because this is the floor of the Holy of Holies right there. See the rectangular depression? You guys were with that for 2 weeks ago, right?
Where
the Ark of the Covenant's at. I get so excited about this stuff. Such a geek. Here's a broader view of it, looking down from inside the dome of the rock. That's the Holy of Holies right there. Okay, so this guy here, have you guys heard of him? I know you all have. We talked about him in here, right? Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, also known as Maimonides, also known as Gold Star. This is, you guys should know, because this is the greatest Jewish sage of all time. Most rabbis agree with that statement. Most Jews agree with that statement. He was alive during the time of the Crusaders, so the 12th century AD. Go ahead, Kurt.
I know he's the one that's got them worshiping at the Western Wall now. Got them turned around facing the wrong way.
He's what?
Is he the one that told him
got
where
them
the...
actually worshiping at the Western Wall
Yeah.
of the
Is he the one that told him where the temple
Temple
was?
Mount. Instead of facing west, they're
He,
facing east.
I wouldn't say he was the one, because he did pray at the Temple Mount. He actually was born in Cordoba, Spain, and grew up in Spain. Later, when there were pogroms that happened there, so he and his family went into exile. They ended up in Egypt, but he did travel to Jerusalem. He visited the Temple Mount, and he did pray there. Definitely considered, among the experts on the Temple Mount. In fact, he wrote a whole book about it. That's the book sitting here, the brown one, Mishnah Torah, which means oral Torah. And what this is the oral Torah, the oral tradition passed around century after century among the Jewish sages. And Maimonides is the one who's thought, okay, we got to put this on paper. So he finally put pen to paper. This is one volume of many. Okay, so he wrote many books that comprise the Mishnah Torah. This is the Hilkot Beis HaBechirah. Did I say it right? It's on the cover there. Which means the laws of God's chosen house, or the law of God's chosen house. And in this volume, he goes into great detail about the Temple Mount, the temple, and even the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, and here's. Do I have time to want to show this to you? Well, let me finish this. Okay, so Well, I guess that's my introduction to the amount he's. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I remember where I was going with this. So he's also known as the Ram Bam, which sounds really silly to us. This is the Ram Bam. So you've heard that name, right? Ram Bam is a nickname for Maimonides, which is just kind of an acronym for Rabbi Moshe Ben Maimon Ram Bam. If you pick out some of the letters, okay. So if you hear Ram Bam, that's talking about Maimonides. Again, he was in Jerusalem during the time of the Crusades. Visited the Temple Mount, did great research on it, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you love this? Right? Okay, I'm closing the prayer. I gotta close. Okay, ready? All right. Praise you, Father God. Lord, we just thank you for tonight. We just thank you for the opportunity to come together as your people and worship you, Father God, and have fellowship with you and fellowship with each other. I thank you, Father, for the presence of the Holy Spirit in this room, and that each one is filled and overflowing with that anointing, Father. You call each one here to be watchmen in this generation. I pray for increased anointing over each one here. Definitely myself included. I won't say especially myself, but definitely myself included. For increased anointing for eschatology, the study of the last days. That you're getting us insight and wisdom and understanding like it's never been in any generation prior to ours. And this group has the heart and the desire. We're pressing in, and you don't turn us away, Father God. We just thank you for that, Father. Lord, for each one here, I pray, as I always do, for long life, divine health, increase, prosperity, love, peace, and joy in their lives, and just bless each one as they go tonight, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Let's hear how much you love it. Clap. I think you do a good job. And come back next week.